Oh hi. Rothenburg about the village Tauber, one of the cities of Germany, most popular with tourists, a pearl of the Franconia, piece of Romanticische road. Regional center of the state of Bavaria. It is located on the Tauber River. It is subordinated to the administrative district Central Franconia. Is a part of the region of Ansbach. The population makes 11025 people. For December 31, 2010. Occupies the space of 41.45 km. The official code -09, 571, 193. It is subdivided into 38 urban areas. The name of the city is translated from German as the Red Loch over Tauber. This settlement presumably arose in the 10th century, and the loch, which gave the city the name, was constructed in the last third of the 11th century by the Count Comberg Rothenburgski. Last representative of a consort, Henry. 1108. I bequeathed the lands, including Rothenburg, to the Combergski monastery. However, the Emperor Henry V, having refused to approve right of succession, in 8 years I granted Rothenburg to the nephew Konrad Schwabski. Thus the young city became the possession Stauffenov. In 1137 Konrad became the king of Germany and transferred the yard to Rothenburg. At the time of Konrad's death his son Friedrich was only 8 years old, therefore the crown passed to his cousin, to Friedrich Barbarossa, the child of Rothenburg, is called the son Konrad. It was brought up here and over time I got a nickname Beautiful. The Duke Friedrich kept the magnificent yard in Rothenburg. Here his wedding with Heinrich Lev's daughter was celebrated. In 1172 Rothenburg acquired the rights of the city and began to be built up by strengthenings. In 1250 the first stone to the base of a Gothic town hall was put. From 1274 to 1803 Rothenburg had the status of the free imperial city and was under control of rich burghers. In 1311 the Teutonic Order, one of 4 church awards which had the representations in the city, put the main church of St. Jacob. In 1352 behind Rothenburg the right to independently manage trial of criminals was recognized. Both lines of city defensive work strongly suffered from an earthquake of 1356 which destroyed and the Red Loch, Stauffenov. Time of a burgomasterство of Heinrich Toppler. Turn of the 14th and 15th centuries. Became golden age of medieval Rothenburg. At this time within city walls 5,500 people and about 140,000 more lived in vicinities that allows to include Rothenburg in the 20 of the largest cities of Germany of that time. Notable income to the city was brought by pilgrims who visited the city to bow to a relic, to 3 drops of blood of Christ. Reformation time became serious test for Rothenburgites. After a row of years of departure of a Protestant cult, Rothenburg returned in 1525 to a bosom of Catholic Church. His surge in Christian piety led to the fact that in 1520 the Jewish population was expelled from the city, the synagogue and the Jewish cemetery were destroyed. Only the niece history of Rothenburg's Jewry, to which the famous Rabbi Meir belonged, ended. During 30 Years' War the city was taken in 1631 by the Count Tilly. According to the legend, when the general sentenced to death of all Dicks of city council and I disposed to burn the city, Rothenburgites tried to cajole him, having presented a liter glass of the Franconia wine. Told Tilly that will cancel the decision on destruction of the city if someone from locals is able to drain a glass for once. The burgomaster Nush coped with this task. In 1634 Rothenburg became deserted because of the outbreak of bubonic plague, and in 1645 was besieged, fired and taken by the French troops. Under the terms of the Westphalian World, 1648. The impoverished city was forced to pay 5,000 guldens of contribution which he had to borrow. After leaving of the French, 1650. Rothenburg lost former value and, being not in a condition of a message new construction, stiffened. As well as many cities of Romanticheskaya Road. In the medieval shape. In anticipation of elimination of the Sacred Roman Empire. 1803. The free city of Rothenburg it was decided to include in structure of the Bavarian Kingdom. In 1877 in provincial the small town the landscape writer Eugen Bright, popular at the time, who was impressed with what was seen, came around and told of local beauty to other German romantics. Time began revival of Rothenburg as the tourist center with it. Especially the Nazi organization, forced through Joe, subsidizing tours of Germans to this city, advanced Rothenburg as the most German of the cities. In October 1938 the city authorities forbade to live within the city to Jewish people. During bombing on March 31, 1945 16 planes of Allies destroyed 306 buildings in east part of the city, including a 600-meter piece of a city wall with 9 waters. After World War II the affected part of the city was restored, only remained photos. By different estimates, from 30% to 40% of ancient buildings of Rothenburg represent post-war models. In 1988 twinning connection between Rothenburg and Suzdal was established. In 2010 in Rothenburg there took place shootings of the screen version of the novel, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Sites: Town Hall with a 60-meter tower on the Market Square. The building combines Gothic style and style of the Renaissance. It is reconstructed after the fire of 1501 destroyed the left wing of the medieval building. From the tiny observation deck of the Ratushny Tower the best view of all city opens. Street: Jacob's Church, the main temple of Rothenburg. The nave was under construction from 1373 to 1436, the western choruses from 1450 to 1471. The temple is consecrated by the Würzburg bishop in 1484. Inside a remarkable an altar of 12 apostles of work of the artist Gerlin, 1466. And an altar of sacred blood, 1499-1505, which is considered the main masterpiece of the Renaissance sculptor Riemenschneider. According to the legend, 3 drops of blood of Jesus Christ which are placed in the crystal capsule which is built in a gilded cross are stored in the last. Directly behind church there is the Renaissance schoolhouse with the polygonal ladder turret topped with a bulbous dome. The architect 50. Weidmann 1589-92. Playa the triangular extended area with a set of souvenir shops connecting the city to Tauber's valley. In old times traded in fish here. Several medieval travel towers against the background of which tourists like to be photographed are nearby located. The city wall with 10 towers constructed mainly in an interval between 1360 and 1388. It is one of the few city walls of Central Europe which reached the 20th century without significant losses. Analogues of smaller extent remained in Nördlingen and Dinkelsbühl. Museum of Local Lore D. Till 2019, the Museum of the Imperial City, where everything that from century to century was created in the free imperial city of Rothenburg is presented. Painting, sculpture, furniture, weapon, agricultural and craft instruments of labor, toys. The museum is in the former Dominican convent founded in the 13th century. The Museum of Medieval Criminal Proceedings tells about how tortured, judged and punished offenders in the 12th-18th centuries. Here it is possible to see wooden collars for ladies, metal masks of a shame in the form of a snout, with a trunk, long tongue and so forth, a drunk barrel, in which immured tracturney frequenters, chastity belts, chairs with thorns, both other tools of tortures and attributes of a shame. The building of the museum is adjoined by the screen church of St. John constructed by Johannita at a boundary of the 14th and 15th centuries. The Lodge of Handicraftsmen was put in 1270. For 700 years in this building. More than once reconstructed. There lived masters of the most different crafts. Coopers, dyers, tinmen, borschicknik, basket makers, soap makers, olivjanschik and bricklayers. For many years in the house there lived a hermit who wasn't accepting the civilization benefits, a water supply system and electricity. Today 11 rooms of the museum reproduce a situation of dwellings of masters, and tell about crafts in which they were engaged. Rooms and rooms with low ceilings are arranged in style of the last centuries, for example. A closet of a journeyman with an unusual berth, kitchen with naked flame, the room, unequal tiles made on a potter's wheel in the 14th century. The well of 14 meters in depth equipped indoors could provide its inhabitants with water even today. The Museum of Christmas. The Christmas village of Cathy Wolfart. Shop of Christmas and Christmas decorations which consists of 5 Verkavy houses connected by transitions. Christmas tree decorations, nutcrackers, Christmas pyramids are presented in particular. It is possible to carry to an impressive decor also a 5-meter Christmas tree. The Franciscan Church is considered the oldest in the city. Sites at the monastery cemetery almost all patrician families of the city owned. Many treasures of the temple are nowadays lost or are in the museums. From several works of Riemenschneider in church only the altar with scenes of the Passion of the Christ remained. Saint Wolfgang, 1475-1493. Church is located to the north from Northern Gate Klingenthal. It is constructed at the expense of local shepherds. Inside there is an exposition devoted to sheep breeding in Tauber's Valley. The southernmost tip of the old city has an ensemble of medieval city hospital. And in the hospital street, church dominates. Spirit, nowadays Protestant. The narrow screen temple with the only nave. Okay, 1280, it is reconstructed in 1591. Also the garden and the unusual building of kitchen of the end of the 16th century are noteworthy. The Smoltoplerlock, a separate holiday tower apartment of the Burgomaster Tauber. 1388. With furniture of the 16th, 19th centuries. As during a high water the surrounding meadow was flooded, for an entrance to the building built special stone bridge. Medieval dwellings of this kind in other cities practically didn't remain. Treunow Bridge through Tauber on the road connecting Augsburg to the Wurzburg was built about 1330. It was restored after destructions at the end of the 20th century, in 1925 and 1955. The street. Placia's chapel, which remained from the Stoffenov lock destroyed by an earthquake in 1356. Now on the place of the lock, the surf garden. Traditions. History of a masterful drink, the Burgomaster Nash, is dramatized every year for Pentecost. This action is entered by UNESCO in the list of non-material cultural heritage. The 3-day festival of popular music takes place every year in August. Within the last 300 years, snow spheres, a dessert like brushwood, from the bake test, chocolate and nuts are considered as a specialist program of this region of Franconia. By assessment for December 31, 2015, the population of community of Rothenburg, about the village, Tauber, makes 11041 people. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.